Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You got questions, we got guesses. I'm Nash, doing Radio Dead Air for ages, but in addition to that, I'm also an IT professional. With me, as always, my producer, Mike Gehrman, who also works in IT. If you've got questions for us, please, by all means, send those to requests at radiodeadair.com, or you put those in the comments of our YouTube channel and stuff, because this might be watching here. I don't know. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing okay. It's been a bit warm here, and I've been looking like, it's not great, but you just got over a heat wave there, so my bit warm of 75, I really shouldn't complain about.
Really, no. It's been a bit of a rough week news-wise for everybody. We're all still trying to deal with it, but I tried to find a little bit of good news for us this week, and this definitely qualifies. If you want a little Schadenfreude, who do we hate? I mean, it's hard to find someone who doesn't hate Comcast, really.
Indeed.
That says a lot.
When there was this site called was it Consumerist? I think it was the Consumerist that before they went under, they had every year a most hated companies thing that they did, and Comcast, to my recollection, came in either first or second every year, which is hard to do in a world where Ubisoft and Microsoft exist.
Yeah. Well, good news if you happen to be stuck on Comcast, or, I think this also extends to, at least for me, WoW, because they were going to, well, let's get to what the story is going on. Comcast are doing so poorly in the market right now that they have, in case you weren't aware, a few years ago, probably at least 10 years by now, good Lord, Comcast decided, screw you. If you were a Comcast customer, they decided, screw you. And they installed what they swore up and down were not data caps. They were data caps. You would get, I think, 1 terabyte of data.
They were bandwidth limits, is I think how they build them.
Yeah, you'd get 1 terabyte worth of data. And if you downloaded or uploaded more than 1 terabyte, so both ways, bidirectional, they would put a limiter on your account, and every bit of data, every gigabyte thereafter, was, I think it was like $5 or something like that.
It was a ridiculous amount.
And your bill would,
what in a lot of the world is an unlimited account.
Yeah. So, and there was really no call for it. Comcast claimed it was because they were doing network management. They were trying to, we're trying to responsibly manage our network. It was bullcrap. It was complete bullcrap.
What it basically was that their infrastructure wouldn't support lots and lots of people going over 1 terabyte a month.
Which is a lie.
Well, it sort of wasn't, in the sense that they didn't want to spend the money to upgrade to support all those people. So they said, well...
No. If it wasn't that they couldn't support it, then why keep allowing people to go over it, but just charging them more? It was bullcrap. It was a total lie. They lied. It was a straight up lie.
They peddled it as part of, we'll use the money to upgrade the infrastructure, and then didn't do that either.
Well, they've never done that. I cannot count the number of federal grants that every broadband network has received, and then just simply not done the work. And have faced no penalties for it.
They get a grant to roll out better connectivity to rural or underserved areas. And they say, great, thanks for the 200, 300, $500 million. We're going to roll this out over the next 3 years when the next grant will come out. And then 2 years later, they go, yeah, we haven't done anything. We kept the money.
They did have some money for stock buybacks, though. They did have that. Well,
that's because money's fungible. Once they got that money in, they could say, oh, this money we're going to spend on rollouts, we're going to use it for stock buybacks, and then we're going to use the grant money, because no one's beating us up over it, for stock buybacks as well.
So we pretty much had to endure this. Now, most people did not go over 1 terabyte, because most people simply, but sometimes you would. Say, for example, you were reinstalling a new computer and you did not back up your Steam library. That's a month you could go over 1 terabyte.
Or you watched it as 4K streaming became more and more popular. You could easily go over 1 terabyte with an extended weekend of, hey, this paper channel is having a free weekend. Watch all of this show that you were kind of interested in over the weekend. Oh, look, there's your data limit gone.
Or if you're like me and you do this sort of streaming thing, this sort of doubles up my traffic in a way, because I'm uploading a large amount of traffic as much as I'm downloading it. Well, not constantly, but it is a chunk of my upload per month. And yeah, sometimes I would go over 1 terabyte. Huawei, which is the cable internet I'm on, that's not Comcast, for a long time, they were not doing bandwidth caps or data caps. And I was like, great, perfect. I'll go with you and I don't have to worry about it. Then they said, we're going to start rolling those out soon. And I was like, fuck. Well, turns out that's not going to happen, because
once your competitors stop capping and saying, no, we're just not gonna, they go, oh, well, if we do, they'll leave us for them. Because even though their service is kind of crap in a lot of ways, people will look at that unlimited and go, ooh, that's good. Now, I have my doubts as to the actual unlimitedness of the cap. I suspect that they will still do bandwidth throttling, even if they're not charging.
We'll have to see. It's something you can easily test.
Yes, we will know. We will find that out 3-6 months from now. I guarantee you, if it happens, we'll talk about it on this show.
It probably won't, because they're trying to compete with 2 things right now. On the one hand, they're trying to compete with 5G hotspots and wireless, which, while they are, depending on the bill, some of them can be expensive, some of them not. And if you're not using a lot of internet, they might be more convenient for a lot of people. The other thing they're competing with is fiber, which is a fire hose. So if they try to throttle bandwidth when someone has the option, and not all of us do, but if you're in an urban area that has the option of fiber, cable doesn't make a lot of sense, especially when it's like, oh, if you go too much, they'll throttle you. Well, hi, we're Verizon. We've got Fios. You want to come on over? Or there's municipal broadbands. There's a couple of other fiber options. Unfortunately, and I have tried repeatedly, AT&T does not run fiber to my area. Nobody else runs fiber to I've looked for the local ones. Nobody runs fiber to my area. I don't know why. We are right in 10 miles from the major urban hub of Charleston, and yet they don't run the fiber. That's the only reason I'm still on cable, and I'm on a cable that is not Comcast, which Huawei has its own issues. It could be
I thought
worse.
you were on way out west.
Yeah, Huawei. That's what they call it. Way out west. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were saying Huawei, the company, the Chinese company that got banned in the U.S.
No,
because
that's Huawei, not Huawei. That's Huawei.
See, that could confuse a stupid person.
But yeah, they are not only that, they've also that Now brand, that Now Infinity brand. I mentioned this a while back. I got a flyer for it. Comcast is trying to quietly hide their involvement with this other brand they've made called Now, that looks like they're a new cable company, but they're actually Comcast with a new name on top of the Xfinity name. It's Now, and if you look a little bit more closer at the branding, it's Now by Xfinity. And nowhere does it say Comcast. Nowhere. So
remember what we said at the beginning of the show, Comcast, most hated company for many, many years. It's probably still the most hated company, just no one polls anymore.
I have, and you can probably, if you are interested in going back through the archives and finding this, I have been saying for years, the minute Comcast had competition, viable competition, they were screwed. And it's starting to look like they're screwed. Because people are cutting the cord, as they still call it. And 5G is, in terms of broadband speed, a lot of people are just fine with 5G. As a 5G hotspot at their home, they're fine with that. They don't need anything more. The speed is impressive. If you can get a reasonable data rate on it, then you don't really need, and if you get a reasonable data rate on it and you're just doing low level of internet stuff, that's a way to just say, hey, we don't need Comcast. We don't need a fixed. And if you're in rural areas, guess what? Comcast can't even reach those folks. But 5G is actually, if not in terms of financially viable, technically viable for a lot of rural areas that would not be viable, in other places. So Comcast is in a position now where they got comfortable. They were the dominant player in the market. They did not feel the need to be responsive to customers or competitive in any way at all. And now they don't know how to do it.
Yeah. And so just so we don't get sued, I did look it up just now. And I was incorrect. Comcast, in the 9 years that the consumerist ran worst company in America, only won twice. They came in second twice, and they came in third twice. They
EA won most of the time.
No. Actually, EA only won twice as well. It was Halliburton, RIAA, Countrywide Financial, AIG, Comcast, BP, EA, Comcast.
Okay.
SeaWorld got third place once.
Now, if you're stuck on cable internet, this is good news for you. You're probably no longer going to have to worry about this stupid thing. Some of you never did. Some of you were not even probably aware it was a part of your account. But some of you, you never had to worry about this, and you're probably not going to have to worry about this ever again. It's Comcast stock has been taking a beating. They're just not doing well. Their growth has come to slow to a crawl. They're not picking up new customers like they were before. We might see them have to become a little more desperate with their terms and how much they're charging, which that's going to be fun. If Comcast is finally gets to the point where it's like, okay, price war, that could be a wonderful thing finally for internet in America. If they're going to try to do price war, they may have no choice, except I don't know if Comcast understands what a price war is or understands how to do it. We'll see.
They could always go talk to NVIDIA and Intel.
That's not going to help. That's not going to help.
Who says I was supposed to be helping?
Speaking of NVIDIA, we have noticed that this generation of graphics cards, AMD and NVIDIA both are guilty of this. They are still, in the year of our Lord 2025, still releasing graphics cards with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Yep. Now, for the RTX 5050, a crap product to begin with, being 8 gigabytes, hardly surprising, but it shouldn't have even existed in the first place. However, the RTX 5060, not being at least 10 gigabytes, was confusing at best. And even the existence of the RTX 5060 Ti 8 gigabyte, the fact that there was an RX 9060 8 gigabyte also Well, it turns out that was not the best business idea because Gamers Nexus went through and did a massive analysis of a bunch of retailers, looked up listings for video cards, checked MSRPs to see if they were still in stock, et cetera, et cetera. And the cards that were reliably in stock, the cards nobody's buying, are the 8 gigabyte models.
I mean, yeah.
A good reason for this is
they're the Tesla Cybertruck of video cards.
Not really. They're just.
Okay. My bad. They don't catch on fire as often.
So what is happening is, and it's hard to measure this, but if you look at the used market for graphics cards, you have a lot of cards, 7700X, even like the 7600 XT. You have, if you look at even like a 4070 Ti. What was the 4070 Ti? What did that have? I think that still had 8. What did the 4070 Ti have? That had 12 gigs. 4070 Ti, yeah, that had 12 gigs of RAM.
So what you're saying is people can find a used video card that is as good or better than the new 8 gig cards.
Yeah, I just pulled up right now on eBay for $380. Let me look how reliable this that's not a bad listing. It's got about like 20 or so people. There's $380 with $10 shipping for an RTX 4070 Ti 12 gig. That's not bad. You can get a 3080 10 gig for cheaper than that. So yeah, there are shipping lowest first. What else do we have? Let's see, buy it now prices.
It could it could be a combination of both. It literally depends on the person doing the listing. Some people do buy it now just to get rid of it quick.
I do see. Yeah, it's true. I do say it's more close to 500 to 600 now looking at it. But let me see. What's RTX 3080? Let's see. RTX 3080 is going for about not parts. Damn, people broken a lot of these cards.
Yeah. See, for example, while he's looking, if I was listing stuff, I would put it down as buys now, just because I don't want to track going, how my auctions doing today? No, just buy it now.
MSI RTX 3080 10 gig 350, which is hey Colossus, thank you for 26 months. You enjoyed a great emote, etc. But yeah, the 350 for an RTX 3080, which is faster than the RTX 5060 8 gigabytes for about the same money, and it's actually, you can buy it, you can find it in stock. Why would you get the 5068 gigabyte? Because these are pretty regularly available.
The only reason I can't think of a good reason. I was thinking maybe driver support for longer, but
let me look at the RX 6800. Let's see. It's parts only. Someone can actually buy. Buy it now. Come on. There we go. Yeah, RX 6800, 16 gigabyte, $350, $10 delivery. That's pretty good. This person's got 233%, 100% positive on their. That's a 16 gigabyte card. So we've got these that are far in advance of what they're offering. Even like the 5060 Ti, these are competitive with those, with much more RAM for much lower prices. So why would you buy one of these brand new to get less performance? That's not the big problem with the 8 gigabyte cards right now is in 5 years, if you're going with a 5-year upgrade cycle, like most people at the low end of graphics cards do, because People held on to their 1060 for forever. They held on to the 1660 for forever. At the low end, you don't up like people are holding on to the 3060 12 gig for forever. At the low end of graphics cards, people don't upgrade every cycle. They don't even upgrade every 2 cycles. They'll hold on to a card for 5 years until they hit the point where it can't really play anymore, and they'll look for something else. If you buy one of these right now, within 5 years, 8 gigabytes is no longer going to be sufficient for new games. You'll be fine for your existing games, but for new games, it's not going to do the job anymore. And 10 gigs is going to be the minimum starting point, and you're going to have these cards that are going to be struggling with 8 gigs. So why buy those now when you could buy something with significantly more RAM to hold you over until there's a better option?
Like for example, the AI bubble burst, and NVIDIA realizes they have to make graphics cards for the masses again to make money.
Yeah, it's these people don't want to let go of their 1080s. Yeah, I mean the GTX 1080 is still, if you don't even worry about DLSS and you try to use FSR instead, which is an option, GTX 1080 Ti, that thing is still a viable card. It's not great these days, but
yeah,
we have a lot of options.
One of these days, I'm going to disassemble this computer and figure out who I know that needs parts and get these. And someone's going to get a great deal on this video card. And it's only a couple years old.
Which one? The 3080 or?
Remember the card that I bought you? That as a loaner?
Loan me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's in there.
Yeah, it's a 3080 12 gig, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah. That's a nice card. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on this, but it looks like I would not, do not in this year buy an 8 gigabyte graphics card new. If you pick one up, try to get a deal on something used. If you can't afford a lot, like if you're the under $300, if you're in the $200 market, buy one used. Great idea. Do not spend new money on a brand new video card these days with 8 gigabytes of RAM. That's just silly. There are better options for that amount of money that might be a year or two older, but they've got a whole lot more actually better overall options for you. All right, last news story this week. No, not that one. That's the wrong one. Where are you? News story. I was going to talk about briefly. I was going to talk about the AI curbing the export controls on blah 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 on these, but instead something else popped up on my feed, and I wanted to talk about it. We've talked about this a little bit before when people ask questions. We've talked about it in other issues. USB-C is not a standard. And people say it's got a USB-C connector. That's all USB-C is, a connector type. Kind of like the connector you plug into the wall, 2-prong connector in the 2 or 3 in the US. I think there's a separate one in the UK. That's just a connector. That's all. The standard is how the connector is wired up.
Yep.
For example, say what?
And what can pass over it? Because some cables, USB-C connector cables, will be, no, I can't do the high voltage, high current. And others will be like, yeah, no, fine.
For example, if I were to take a 3-pronged outlet plug here in the United States, and I wired the ground to the neutral, the ground to the hot, and the neutral to the ground, and then just wired it however I wanted to, it would still be a 3-prong power plug. It just would no longer be wired standard.
No.
Which is kind of what
catch things on fire.
Which is I'm not saying necessarily that the Switch 2 will catch things on fire. However, there is a power delivery standard for USB. It's called USB-C PD or USB PD. PD stands for power delivery. Used to be part of the USB standard. It was very basic. You had 5 volts, 1 amp, then 5 volts, 2 amps. Then USB 3 was able to do 5 volts, 3 amps over the connector. With the USB-C connector, they had more options to increase the voltage, and they came up with the power delivery standard. This is capable of 48 volts at 5 amps. That's a lot of current. That's over 160 watts of current.
Now, the way this handles on components, basically, is the things on either end will talk to each other and say, basically, what can you handle? And they'll sort it out. Now, the cable in between still may have issues. The two components either end may go, I can handle 48 volts at 5 amps. I can handle 48 volts at 5 amps. And the cable's going, I'm a 1 amp cable.
In any event, you have charging devices will talk to the device they're charging. And each little pin, and there are tiny pins in your USB-C connector, are all supposed to go to a certain place. Well, what Nintendo has done is they've added an encryption chip to the USB-C port on the Switch 2. This encryption chip does not talk to standard USB power delivery units properly. It will only talk to other devices that have the ability. There's a device key, an encryption key. If the device has that key, it can communicate with the Switch 2 and say, okay, we're going to send this much power here. If it doesn't, who knows what happens? Because this is non-standard. You shouldn't do this. It's non-standard. It's a bad idea. Now, this is why
Nintendo looks at it as device lock-in, and people will have to pay us for peripherals.
This is, in fact, the Apple playbook on it, because if the device you're plugging into the Switch doesn't have the proper encryption key, it will not talk properly to the Switch. This could be controllers, this could be Switch docks, and this could just be a power connector. So if you're going to buy a Switch 2, unfortunately, you have to make very certain that whatever accessory you buy for it has the Nintendo seal of approval on it. That is certified by Nintendo to be an actual device for the Switch 2. Just because it's a US...
Now, I'm going to say, the problem there, though, is if the third-party company, falls out after some point with Nintendo, this looks like it's firmware, and the key can be upgraded or altered.
The key can be updated.
And updated was the word I was looking for. And if that company falls out with Nintendo, maybe they don't get the new key when Nintendo patches your Switch, and suddenly your third-party product that used to work now doesn't work, or other third-party products start to work.
This is the really shitty part of it, because Nintendo can change the encryption key at will, so they could push an update to the Switch 2 and change the encryption key. Now, all the manufacturers who are, you can dump that key and read that key. So say you're a third-party manufacturer and you're like, oh, I'll just download the key from the Switch and build my device using that key, and it'll work just fine. Well, what happens when Nintendo changed the key and you're not an official Nintendo licensee? You don't get that key automatically.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't even have a way to push updates to your devices. Suddenly those devices stop working.
Like a lot of Internet of Things devices, and this is not really Internet of Things, but you could call it a subcategory, I suppose. The devices, if they don't have a way to receive updates, aren't going to get the new keys anyway.
So what I could recommend is just because it's a USB-C connector, be very careful what you plug into the USB-C port on a Switch 2. You don't know what's going to work right and what isn't. You don't know what could potentially cause problems and what won't, because Nintendo's not making the standard public, so we can't predict. There's no way of knowing until you do it and then find out what goes wrong. This is kind of unfortunate, but if you own a Switch 2, like if there's like a memory adapter you plug into it for a card or something, don't do it. Don't. Another thing that this does is this is also a form of copy protection, because by making a non-standard USB-C port, it makes it harder to dump cartridge information. It makes it harder to dump firmware so that you could put on your own homebrew stuff. If it's not impossible, if like there are going to be determined people who are going to be able to crack this and be able to dump stuff off of it, but it's going to add a barrier to entry that a lot of people, it won't be able to be done simply. So it's all around, this is just kind of scuzzy. And again, I will stress, don't even Nintendo, even stuff that was fine for the Switch 1, be careful plugging it into the Switch 2. Because, again, there is no standard. There's no white paper. We don't know how this thing works. It's encrypted. All right. Well, that's the news for this week. Let's get to your questions. Please feel free to send those along to us. All right. Myrtle has one. This is Myrtle R. First question here. Not sure if this really counts as a tech question. Actually, it does, Myrtle. But any good keyboard recommendations for someone who likes to type like they're slamming keys on a manual typewriter? Okay. Well, Myrtle, what it sounds like to me you need is to find out what kind of key switch. All right. It sounds like you need a mechanical keyboard is yes. The first thing. And it sounds like you need to find out which key switch type is what you want. I think you need something that's got more resistance when you push it down, that takes more effort to get a response from the keys. If you type more heavily, then you need something that pushes back harder. But there's a quick way to tell what you should get. And a bunch of places have these. Let's see.
Oh, this is the Cherry keyboard kit where you can test each switch and go, yeah, I like this one.
You're going. Well, there's some expensive ones and there's some less expensive ones. What you're going to look for is initially, you're going to look for something called a key switch tester. Some of these are like really expensive and huge. I don't think like the Gatoron here one might give you a good idea, because Gatoron kind of models theirs after Cherry. There's kind of some universal ones. What this will do is this key switch tester will give you an idea of what each switch feels like. So you can push it down and see how much resistance you get to it, how much pushback. My thinking here is you're probably going to want to look for two different types of the key switches you might be interested in. The black ones are the ones with the most resistance, but they don't have a tactile bump. So they are just, you push and you have to push harder to make contact. The green switches, at least for Cherry, are similar to the black switches, but they have a little click. They're like the blue clicky ones, only they have a tougher spring and you have to push harder. It sounds like that's what you're looking for. So once you decide on which switch seems like the one that's good for you, one that will give you some pushback, then you look for a mechanical keyboard that comes with those switches. Like black switches tend to be fairly common. Green, you might be able to find some of those, or you might be able to find a keyboard kit that has the base empty keyboard and you add your own switches later and you can customize it to your heart's content. But what it seems like to me, you need something with more resistance. There are other models of keyboards, other ways of doing this. This is just the simple way I know how to express this to you for key switches that I'm familiar with. Nilhamid 54, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Something that you need more resistance on your key switch push. That's what your problem is, because you're heavy typer and you need something that pushes back for you. Also, I will say mechanical keyboards, if you're worried about something that will last and hold up, you can fix mechanical keyboards. In fact, if you get the right mechanical keyboard that has replaceable switches, you don't even need a soldering iron. If you get the ones that have that can take switches without soldering, you just pop those out and pop in a new one, or you can mix and match and get the keyboard exactly the way you want. But yeah, the mechanical switch, the cherry style mechanical switch keyboards, of which there are tons, they range in all sorts of prices. That will probably be your best bet to get something that feels right to you. Like, I went through a lot to get this one, and I finally ended up deciding, because I wished I didn't want to have, they screwed up my order. I got an optical one. It's like blah, 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 blah. I finally went with the Gatoron Blues, which are close to the Cherry Blues. They're clicky, and they give me the kind of feedback I want. They push back a little harder than the Browns. So I like those. That's what I settled on. I was going to go with the Clear for a while. That was a little bit too much feedback, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It took me a while to come to what I wanted. But that's the nice thing about Cherry mechanical keyboards, especially. Let me see if I can find swappable switch keyboard. See. Yeah, you want like a hot swap keyboard. And typically, if they could use cherry switches, they could use just about everybody's any competitor's type. Oh yeah, here's one. Oh yeah, the basic ones, the hot swatch, just the basic platforms to start off with are not expensive. Here's one for like $25. It's not a full keyboard, but still, just give you an idea that here's one that's a full keyboard. Yeah, hot swap. You can just pop out and pop in whatever keys you want to try to get it just the way you like it. So that's probably your best bet.
There's some people who probably mix and match keys in that. So they go, oh, the center ones, are stiffer, and the ones for my pinky fingers are a little bit not as stiff.
Yeah, people get a little crazy with that shit. I just went, I want one type, so I got the blue clickies, and they make me happy too. So yeah, that's probably a little bit more along the lines of what you're looking for. Okay, next up, oh boy, this is from James in Alberta. Hey, Nash and Mike, big problem in all caps. I snapped the key plastic on my backup drive's SATA connector. The little metal fingers are still there, but the plastic part that holds the SATA connector in place is gone. Is there anything I can do, or is the drive hosed? Well, all right, let me show people what we're talking about here, because this is a common occurrence. The back of a SATA port has two plugs, one for power and one for data. And if you look real closely right here, there's a little plastic key guide for the connector. It only goes in one way. It's got a little L shape. You can only plug it in one direction. And that plastic is not actually connected to the pin wires, and it can snap off all by itself. And you're just left with the pins, and that little plastic bit is what clicks into the wire, the connector, the SATA
connector in place.
Yeah.
That's the important bit. It holds the connector in place.
So that comes up with a little bit of a problem. Fortunately, no, your drive isn't hosed. As long as the fingers are still there, they're not bent and they're not damaged, your drive is still intact. However, I wouldn't trust that drive going forward. Here, the simplest way I know to deal with this is $10 or something similar to this. You get a SATA extension cable. And this one, you'll note the important part about this is this extender has both connectors built into the same cable. That means when you plug this in, it will use the plug that connects to the power to hold the whole thing in place. Mm-hmm. That way, you don't need to rely on the connector for the data because it's all one solid plug. This will get you by. at the very least, you can lose this. You could use this to get the data off your hard drive right now, and then
get
maybe get a new drive. It's a workaround, but it's probably the most viable one. I mean, for $10 for this, it pretty much, your drive will still work like this. It's not ideal, and this does happen quite a bit to folks. It sucks, but the SATA drive is still in one still it's in one piece, and the drive itself should still work. The fingers are still in the same orientation. Like I said, they were always kind of just floating there anyway. It was the plug part, the plastic part, the key guide. That's what held the two parts together in the first place. So as long as you have this, where it's all one solid piece, this fits on. This is standard for any SATA hard drive. I think either 2.5 or 3.5 inch. This is the standard configuration. It can be different with different devices, but this is pretty much the basic standard configuration for a hard drive here. You just plug this in all as one solid bit, and you're good. You don't have to worry about gluing things or messing around with anything else. This will do the trick. You could probably keep using the drive for a while. It's up to you. I wouldn't feel safe with it. But if nothing else, if the data on that drive matters, this will get you by. Like you can get really crazy with this if you like. There is a crazier solution, and that is let me see if I can show you a picture of this. You could simply find a replacement logic board for the hard drive, because that is what the IDE bits are connected to. So say you could look online and maybe find, like, this is one you can get off of Amazon. It's kind of 1 star, so I wouldn't really trust this. Say you could find a broken hard drive of the same model on eBay. You just remove the circuit board part of the drive, and you replace it with one from a drive that's no longer functioning, and there you go. You got it puts the SATA connector right back. I think that's a little drastic. I think the extender is, while it's a simpler fix, I think it'll get you by. So anything else you want to add, Mike?
The other option, of course, if you still have the component that broke off, is putting it very carefully in place, and a bead of super glue, let that dry to hold it in place, and then still use the extender. Yeah. But now you've got a better chance of making full contact with the extender.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, just as long as you give it enough time to dry. Don't give it like an hour and be like, we're done. Give it like 24.
Yeah, whatever it says on the container super glue, add to that. Because, super glue, the commercials were always like, oh, in an hour. And I'm like, yeah, the only thing I successfully glued together in an hour with super glue is my fingers.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I have a project I'm doing tomorrow that involves Gorilla Glue.
Oh, yeah. Okay, the next one's from Nathan. Hi, guys. I was watching Salem Techspert's video on his new Framework laptop, and I want to know if you had any thoughts about them or recommendations or whatever. If you're not familiar with what Framework is a company that has decided to make completely modular laptops, which is really cool in this day and age.
And I'm going to note, Nash, they've just started accepting pre-orders for desktops.
Which is fair enough. Okay, cool. I mean, I was about to say, well, that's stupid. Anybody can do that. But it's like, well, why shouldn't they do that? Every other company does it. They can do it too. It's no big deal. So these Framework laptops, in a nutshell, are laptops you can completely disassemble and easy to repair, and you can swap out parts. You can upgrade parts. For example, the higher end one here, you can upgrade the video card later or the processor later. All the parts are labeled. Everything has a QR code on it, so you can order it. You can customize it even down to what kind of interface ports are plugged into it. As in, like, you need an HDMI, but you don't need a display port. Just get the HDMI. You need a USB-C and a USB-A, just one, or all USB-C. Get all USB-C.
Or something happened to my USB-C card. There was an incident involving the cat. We're not going to go into details. I can just get a new USB-C from them and plug it in.
Battery can be swapped. Every single component of this is user replaceable. It's a very nice idea. There is a premium cost for the very nice idea. That is the downside. I would love to own one of these, and I could not in a million years justify the cost, because what you're getting could just add like a $500 on top of what a non-framework laptop would cost you. Get the same model without, you wouldn't be able to decide on a lot of the features, but it's about a $500 premium. And if you're like me and you just need like a basic little laptop, like I just have little 15, I'm still using one from like 2013 for frick's sake. If you're like me, and if I'm getting, you know what, right now, if I'm getting a laptop, I'm going to be looking at something like a used 12th gen Intel. That's all I need. Now, if this is your main system, if you want a laptop that's your main system, I couldn't imagine going with anything but framework. If you want this to be your computer, not just your laptop, but your straight up computer. Screw Apple. I'm sorry. This is the ideal. It's something you can fix. It's something that you're going to be able to keep running for a long time. If something goes wrong with it, it's not completely dead.
It uses completely off-the-shelf parts, except maybe some of the stuff. But so anything that goes wrong, you can just upgrade.
Yeah, but and for me, that $500 premium, if you're relying on this as your daily driver, it is a premium price, but it's absolutely worth it, considering, think of all the questions we get here on this show about, my fan is clogged. How do I get my new keyboard into my laptop? This isn't working on my laptop. The fan's making a weird noise. How do I get into it? We always have to say, well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. We don't know, because they're not made to be repaired anymore. It is a premium price.
Frameworks, on the other hand, you go, oh, the fan went bad. Take out the fan, put in a new fan.
Just for that simple, easy way of dealing with it, it is so worth it. That will, over the lifetime of you owning that laptop, that will save you so much money from having to, if something goes wrong, or if you want to get something better for it, that will save you so much money in cash from having to go, I don't know how to do this. I have to find a repair person in my town. I don't know what to do. This is a superior option in that regard. But it is expensive. And you have to, I mean, you know what? I can say I'd get like a crappy secondhand, because I can service a crappy secondhand. Yeah. If you're looking to buy one and you're really worried about if you're going to rely on this hardcore, I would say it's worth paying extra for one of these. I'd say you will definitely get your money's worth out of it. However, you have to balance that with your own pocketbook, and you have to decide what you can and can't afford. I like it. I like a company that does this. I think it's a nice idea, and I'm glad someone's doing it. It's just case by case basis. I can't say anything bad about the devices, because as laptops go, these are fantastic. cannot stress enough how just the whole idea behind them, and their AMD units, which is pretty good. Just the ability to have complete control over something you own, the entire right to repair mentality, start to finish. You can even get down to the bezel. For me, the part I geeked out over, and this is me being a techie geeking out over this. One of them, in repairing laptops over the years, one of the most annoying parts is the screen bezel, because there are two ways they hold it in place. It's either held in place with snaps, which means you have to be super careful pulling that bezel off. If you need to work on the screen or you need to work on the antenna for the Wi-Fi, you have to be super delicate, because if you break one of those snaps, it's not going back in place. Or even worse, it's glued on. So you have to get like a spudger and a hot air gun and I hate those. The bezels for these, let me see if I can get a picture of it on screen here. You see it on the far left of the picture, that little orange rectangle. Not only can you pick what color you want the bezel to be, magnets. It just goes on with magnets. The end. So good. I love that.
I honestly feel that's something that a few more companies may start doing. What I base that on is not computers. We just did a huge VoIP phone rollout at work. And the bezel on the phones is held on with magnets. Just a couple little magnets. I discovered this on about the 20th phone I installed, when I was putting the phone down, and it slipped a little bit, and I grabbed at it, and the bezel came off, and I'm like, did I break the phone? No, I did not.
Now,
how did I miss that before? That's amazing.
On the other hand, I realize now, as I'm thinking about it, the reason it hasn't been done before now is, well, we've only just hit the point where laptops don't use 2.5 millimeter hard drives anymore. They're all on M.2 drives. And if you tried to use magnets with the old style spinning hard drives, no more hard drive. Yeah, that wouldn't have worked.
So I have a related story. I used to wear on this wrist here a bracelet that had magnets in it. Now, not because I believed in the healing power of magnets or any of that nonsense. I rather liked the look of the bracelet. The bracelet was really cool looking. It just happened to have magnets. Okay? And I didn't think anything of it. And I was working on a tough book at work, and my wrist went over an area of the tough book, and the computer rebooted. I'm like, I didn't think anything of it. Just, okay, I knew this computer was flaky. It's why I was working on it. And I got it back up, and it happened again, and I'm like, magnets.
All right, this last one is from, let me double check, make sure nobody else wrote anything yet. Do we have anything else tonight? I don't believe so. I think we're good. All right, so there's the last one for tonight. This is from Dana. Hi, Nash and Mike and kitties and possums. I'm kind of in a bad spot. I have a Pixel 5a, and I really can't afford to upgrade to anything else right now. It still works. The battery isn't bad, but I also know it's not getting security updates anymore. Is there a way to get around that with files I can download? I'm looking for some kind of hack or patch or something that gives me security updates unofficially. I'm worried about somebody getting into my phone, as I use it a lot for most online things. Fingers crossed, Dana. Okay. No. Asterisk. ... But what's happened here is eventually phones stop getting security updates because they just stop. And Google stops sending it for Android. Apple stops sending it for the iPhones. And
basically, when it gets to a certain age, they go, we're not going to do this anymore. under the working theory that there's going to be less and less of these phones out here. So why bother?
And if you're still trying to use this phone, which might be perfectly fine for your needs, and there's no reason for you to upgrade, it's unsafe because it's no longer getting security exploits. And if a large security updates, and if a large exploit is found for Android, for that version of Android, you may be in trouble. Someone could potentially. It's the chances. I want to stress we say this. The chances are not huge, but it still could happen. Especially, it's more likely with phones. And that's saying even with the small chance of it, of the small chance, it's a little bit more likely because you're more likely to go to a place with a Wi-Fi hotspot, like a Starbucks, Walmart, or a McDonald's or something, and use their Wi-Fi. And that ups the chances of sharing. If you're on a shared Wi-Fi network, up chances of an exploit being used because somebody else is on that same network with you. Regardless, these phones, they stop worrying about supporting them. They're not officially supported anymore. Google and Apple, they just wash their hands of them. This phone stopped getting Android updates too at Android 14. So even if there was a way to just download the security patches, you're on an technically on an older version of Android. So what can you do? Well, okay. This is the first option, which is not going to be a solution for you, but usually the simple option for people is you have to upgrade. You have to get a new phone, you have to replace it, you have to get one that's currently supported. But you're in a spot where money is not permitting you to do that. I understand. We have all been there. So there is another option. Now I'm going to stress you have to be able to follow instructions to understand a little bit. They will go step by step, but you're going to need to follow them. Okay? Don't deviate from the instructions. Be very precise. What may help you here, and I'm going to point out, again, this is totally unsupported. You're going to be on your own, aside from anyone else hi, Grady. Aside from anyone else who might be able to help you online with it, you're going to be on your own. What you're looking at to help you out here is a custom ROM. There are groups online that will make newer versions of the operating system available for older devices as their own custom bundle of software. It's not precisely the same as what you had before, but it is Android. It will run exactly the same way. You'll have to, there's some stuff you have to do to make it work, but it's not incredibly difficult. The one I recommend that has large support, it has a lot of people working on it, and it is what I consider a decent ROM to try to use, is Lineage OS, which I know it's like, what? It is Android. Lineage OS is Android. This is, I'll put the link in the channel. The website you're looking for is called xdaforums.com. I'll put this in the channel for Twitch, and I will add this to the description for the video on YouTube later if you're looking for it. XDA Forums is for so many different kinds of Android devices. You can find people here who have come up with a custom ROM for it. You're in good shape because the Pixel allows for this much more easily than other phones. Google unlocked it a lot. So a lot of the hoops you'd have to jump through for a Samsung or an LG or one of the other phones, you don't have to jump through so much for the Pixel. So that's good news. This will replace the existing Android installation. This will actually move you up to Android 15, which is the most current wide release available. 16 is the newest one, but the most one that's in wide release is 15. He wants all the attention right now. He just wants snuggles. Hi, little boy. This, you will be able to update. What?
Little?
He's little. He is little. Look at him. Look at this little boy. Look at that face. He just wants cuddles, snuggles, and purrs. He's a good boy. We love him. Yes, you are. You're a good cat. The whole internet loves you. I recommend Lineage because it has a large community working on it. There will be updates for it. The updates will be relatively simple to install, though you will have to follow some instructions. This is a way, if you are strapped for cash, this will keep your phone going. You will still be able to, it will still have security updates. You'll get feature updates. You'll be able to use the newest version of Android in some cases. This will allow you to keep your device past whatever shutdown point Google has put, or whatever the manufacturer has. It's not an option for iPhone, unfortunately. If you're on iPhone, you're out of luck. Apple, there's no open source for that.
Yeah, it's complete lockdown.
Yeah, it's complete lockdown. It's going to look a little bit different, but it's going to function just the same. It's going to have a, like, they do their own custom startup animation and everything, blah, blah, blah. But everything you could do with it before, you'll still be able to do with it. You have to download the Google apps separately, however. They're freely available from Google, but they're legally not allowed to bundle the Google apps into the ROM image. So you have to do them separately, but they tell you how to do it. There's links to all of it right there. There's links to what you need to download. There's links to all of the instructions. Just step by step, they will go through it for you and get you back up and running again. It's a lot easier than it used to be. So I've been using custom ROMs for a long time with the stuff. It's much more easy than it once was. And again, you're lucky you got the Pixel. It is not as locked down as a lot of other phones are. You won't have to jump through as many hoops to get it to put it into a position where you can put a custom ROM on it. So
now I will say one thing about custom ROMs is there is the danger you can wreck the phone. So please take that into consideration when you're doing this.
That's why I stressed you gotta, if you do this wrong, if you're not careful, if you do not follow the instructions as written, your phone could stop working. Now, again, the good news is the chances of that happening are much less than they used to be. I've noticed that getting these into a fail condition where they're totally bricked is difficult. Typically, the worst that will happen is it will go back to the recovery screen and you'll kind of have to start over. It might not, you won't get back into your original install of Android, but you won't be in a position where you're totally screwed, which is good. You have to really work to screw this up. So that's where the instructions come in handy. It's not the ideal option. It's not, again, my first recommendation here is don't do this, get a new phone, because it leaves you on your own and you're depending on this and etc. But if you're in this tight spot where you simply don't have the money to get a new phone, having this as an option is, it's there and it's free and it keeps your device out of the landfill, which is nice. Because
it saves you money, which is nice.
It runs the latest. Your phone, your 5A can run the latest version of Android. There's simply no reason for them to stop supporting it, except to force you to upgrade. That's the main reason. It's kind of a crime how many of these get thrown away and be rendered useless when they're still perfectly viable. I've got a 4A over here. That is, it's my backup. If anything happens to the 7A I'm using, I have a 4A. I could just turn it on and use it. And I've got Lineage on it just to be on the safe side. And it's not bad. It works. And I still get security updates and stuff. And it keeps it out of the landfill and it keeps it viable. And I have a phone in case anything goes horribly wrong. I've got a phone in case, I drop this one or something bad happens to it. There you go. So yeah, that's it's not ideal. It's going to take a little work. You're going to have to be careful, but if you follow the instructions, you will keep your phone going for a while longer. I really want to stress that this is not the ideal solution and it's Google's fault. But it is a solution and it could help you. All right. I'm going to do one more check to make sure we got everything for this week. Yeah, that's everything. All right, folks, we'll be back next Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you have tech questions for me and Mike, you can send those to requests@radio.air.com, and we will answer them. Until then, we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.